The name's Demetrius Dixon, and I finally done it! I got a haircut! But also I got Monkanics working. After an awesome playtest on the Monkanics Discord, I've proven that the relay server I made actually friggin' works! Now before I explain this achievement, I have to invite you to the Monkanics Discord. Yes, you! It's the official community hub of Monkanics, where you'll get access to the latest development updates, playtesting, and an awesome community to hang out with. Join the Monkanics Discord today with a link in the description and the pinned comment. Anyways, let's get to it. Now, the last video was about the failure of Monkanics version 0.1, which was supposed to be the first bare bones but playable version of Monkanics. However, the netcode didn't work, and if you've seen the video, you know I went through hell and back to make a working relay server, as that was the key to making Monkanics playable. All I did was plug in my old client server code and create the server with the relay's public IP address instead of my own. As you can see by the footage, we're moving, jumping, and shooting in real time. Even the hit detection, health, and respawn system works too. No gray screen of death or anything. Now, if you couldn't tell, I am so happy this all worked. I got to play Monkanics. Play Monkanics. You cannot comprehend how surreal this was for me. I've been working towards this moment for 7+ years, and I've just realized it. Now, I did have some practical observations from the test. For one, the movement speed is way too fast at 50 meters a second. Combined with the player hitboxes that become pixels if you even get a small distance away, the zoo log being too big, and the unique camera setup makes it pretty hard to actually hit anything. For the next playtest, wink, I'm going to decrease movement speed by 50 to 75%, increase the player model size by 2 to 3 times, and improve the camera angles for better visibility and easier projectile tracking. Next, the zoo log, my first ever multiplayer map, sucks ass! It's horrible. First, not only is it too big for 4 players, it also has too much open air without geometry. So instead of using cover to your advantage, you either end up fighting in an empty plane or playing ring around the rosy around these pillars, nothing in between. Secondly, those pillars I just mentioned were my biggest mistake. Players were just constantly duck and weave around the pillars, making them very hard to hit and irritating the crap out of me. When I rework the zoo log for the next playtest, wink, I'm going to reduce the empty space enormously and shorten the pillars so you can jump over them. Then after that, I'll look at how to actually make a well-designed map for Monkanics as I add its unique features. Another interesting point is the platforms me and the playtesters used. I created a native Windows and Linux port to playtest in order to test compatibility between multiplayer instances, mainly because porting these with Godot 4 is dirt easy. And I gotta say, it was a massive success. Players can connect between Windows 10, 11, and Linux seamlessly. One playtester even used a Linux instance on a Chromebook. A Chromebook! I didn't even think that was possible. This shows that the Linux port is the key to interoperability between systems, including the one PC platform that I didn't make a native port for, Mac. Now, Mac and Apple in general are a pain in the A to work with due to their closed ecosystem and strict software policies. For instance, in order to port Monkanics to Mac legitimately, I had to pay Apple $100 per year on a developer account, then invest another $800 to $1,000 to notarize Monkanics on Apple hardware. Unnotarized applications on Mac hardware cannot be opened, making the game unplayable on Mac. Even if I did spend the ridiculous sum of money, the audience for gamers on Mac are slim, and even slimmer for a PvP shooter. So with all this, I will not be making a native Mac port of Monkanics for Mac. If you are a Mac player and want to playtest Monkanics, you will need to find a way to get a Linux instance on there that can run x86x64 executables. So for the next playtest, wink, I'll make sure to always have a Windows and Linux port only. Anyway, with my primary observations out of the way, what's next for Monkanics? Version 0.1.1 is now complete, and development on version 0.2 has begun. Now let me explain. I know I said in the last video that I would find a means to distribute the game, update the game files, etc. However, version 0.1.1 was simply an addendum to version 0.1, whose goal was, which I already mentioned, to make the game playable in some form. Since Monkanics is playable now, that goal is achieved, and I can move on to the next version without all those features. I'm doing this because I'm changing my versioning strategy to focus on frequent playtesting and community building. So instead of packing every version with a lot of changes that take a while, I'm going to instead try to focus on one goal for that version. Playtest it with you guys, wink, collect feedback and data, then repeat. Development feeds content, content feeds community, and community feeds development. That's my strategy for Monkanics' growth. As for the actual version numbering, every new feature / goal will increase the version count by plus 0.1. For example, version 0.2, version 0.3, etc. Every addendum fix for that feature / goal will increment the version number by 0.0.1. For example, version 0.2.1 or version 0.2.2 for instance. And, most excitingly, version 1.0 will be saved for the official release of Monkanics one day. So, what's my goal for Monkanics version 0.2? Well, even though the relay server works, I still haven't fully locked in Monkanics' multiplayer architecture yet. Just one more thing I need to either prove or disprove. Whether clients can directly send data to each other without an external reroute. In theory, I can do this via a stun server, which stands for Session Traversal Utilities for NAT. Using the relay I've created, I can fetch the client's public IP addresses, which is not as dangerous as it sounds. Then I forward that public IP to another client and vice versa. That client will then attempt to send packets to each other to initiate a connection. This is called a packet handshake. If and when this handshake goes through, both clients can send data directly without the relay server. This yes/no/maybe question will determine the entire future of Monkanics, and if I can execute my full vision. Seriously, it's that important. Anyways, make sure to like, subscribe, and join the Monkanics Discord today. I'll see you in another video.